So I'm about to start my third year of medicine at University of Birmingham, and I'm the agenda lead for this conference. So yeah, someone else.
Hi, my name is Pashmina. I'm about to go into my 5th year at Brighton and Sussex Medical School.
Hi everyone, my name's Connor. I am one of the ambassador leads and a project lead at becoming a doctor. I'm going into my 4th year of medicine at King's. I've just finished my intercalation, which was also at King's.
Hi, I'm Jameela, and I'm just finished 3rd year, and I'm intercalating next year in women's health at the University of Birmingham. I'm becoming a doctor ambassador and helping with the obs and gynae careers and kind of portfolio team, so involved in that.
Hi everyone, my name is Melissa. I just finished intercalating in haematology at Imperial, and I'll be going into my 4th year of medicine at King's next month.
Perfect. I'm just letting the last member of our panel. Hi Benedict, if you wanted to just give a quick introduction into yourself.
Oh, hi. Hi guys, my name is Ben. I'm a 2nd year medical student going to 3rd year. I'm a bad ambassador and one of the mods helping set up the careers conference today. And
cool. Let's kick it off. I've just noticed I've actually had some messages come into me individually. So if people would rather do that, that's fine, or obviously they can go into chat. The first one I have is, what is intercalation? So someone, whoever would like to go.
I'm happy to take that. I've just finished my intercalation. So intercalating at medical school is an opportunity to take a year off from medicine to complete a intercalated Bachelor of Science, or sometimes Bachelor of Arts, in a subject of your choice. So it's effectively your opportunity to complete another undergraduate degree in 1 year. And people do this for various reasons. Some courses it's compulsory, so there are some 6-year medical courses where you have to intercalate. At King's it's optional. So I chose to do it because I'm interested in research, I'm interested in surgery and med tech, and so I chose to do an intercalated BSc in imaging sciences, which allowed me to kind of further explore that route and conduct some research.
Perfect. Another question that's just come in is, how can I, as a teacher, support my students who are looking to start studying medicine?
I think, if I can take this one.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think it'd be really good to, I think, for when I was a student, having the support of my teacher was really helpful, and I was like signposting important resources and kind of requirements that are essential for medical applications. So I know a lot of my friends, with the BMAT, you have to sit that at your school. So it's important to maybe be aware of that and kind of the organisation around that at your school and college, and kind of help facilitate that and kind of signpost that sort of information. I also think like UK CAT reminders about deadlines and when they can do that, and supporting them on kind of open days that come up for medical universities, and special open days that are available. I think especially now that most of them are online, it's just good to kind of make things aware to the students that they might not necessarily know about. Other things I guess would be important, especially if like a science teacher, I think it would be really valuable to have somebody look over your personal statement and just kind of see if you have any advice as well. So that might be useful things to kind of get involved in.
Yeah, did anyone else want to add on to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I went to school quite a while ago, but what I remember was really helpful to me was teachers that allowed me to practice interviews. I think that was the part that I was really, really worried about. And to have a teacher sit down and practice all the questions with me, someone that wasn't necessarily, someone that was quite objective. So that really helped me. So that's something as well.
I would say it's very useful for aspiring medical students to be able to talk to current medical students So if you're a teacher at a school that has already successfully got people into medicine, it might be worth reaching out to those students, ex-students from your college or sixth form, and seeing if any of them are happy to come back and offer any advice.
Yeah. We've just had a question come in that is asking, is it necessary to be a practicing doctor after finishing med school, or are there other career paths available?
That's a good question. I just wanted to say that a lot of my friends I've noticed throughout medical school have decided that they like different fields in addition to medicine. So, for example, some people that integrated in global health really want to take that up as more of the focal career rather than medicine. And I think it's entirely possible to do that, especially if you're interested in epidemiology or research. It's after med school, you can also do an academic foundation post, which might lead you more down an academic route. Alongside practicing medicine. I personally love other things apart from medicine too. So I really want to be a GP so I can tailor my timetable and work part-time in GP and work part-time in doing other things that are more business related. But yeah, you can definitely do a lot of other things apart from medicine.
Seconding that around medical education and getting involved with medical education. I know there's the academic foundation program, but I think there's opportunity to pursue research and also medical education. So that's another avenue that you can do alongside kind of training in your foundation years.
An interesting question that's come in is, what are some of the difficulties you face as a medical student?
I don't mind taking that one.
Go for it.
To be fair, I genuinely love studying medicine. I couldn't imagine studying anything else. I think there are two main problems that I've kind of noticed. The first one being, I think this one's a bit of a given, the whole work-life balance. Pretty much from the get-go, you've got lectures all of the time. You've got a lot of work to do. And when I was coming into med school, I didn't have anyone in my family who went to university. My friends were all doing completely different degrees to me. So they might be having significantly fewer contact hours than me during the week. So I might have been spending my weekend going through lectures whilst my friends were going out. So that did take a bit of a while to get used to. And obviously, as you progress through your medical degree, the workload will obviously increase, but I think that's not something to put you off, just because the more work you're doing, the more you learn how you work efficiently. So obviously at the very beginning of medical school, you might not know necessarily how you learn best. So things are going to take a lot longer for you to get through. Whereas kind of when you do get into it and you find what works for you, although you've got a lot of work, as long as you kind of sit down and get it done and you're not forever procrastinating, it's actually super, super manageable. And I think the other thing, which was more of not so much an issue, but it was something that I noticed from the beginning, but not so much now, is that if you're applying to medicine or dentistry or something that requires very, very strong grades to get into and a very kind of strong academic portfolio, you go to medical school and you realize everyone is pretty much exactly the same as you. They may have the same number of A stars or A's or 9s or 8s. They may even have more, and it does make you feel a little bit average. But then again, you do kind of get used to the fact that you've gone to university to study something that you care about, to work in a profession that you want to work in and you want to make a difference in. So again, not really so much of an issue, but just something I did pick up on in the beginning.
Yeah, I'd quite like to jump on the end of that point. I actually got into medicine with what would be considered very low A-levels for med. I actually had 2 A's and 2 B's with a B in chemistry. And part of that was to do with I had a contextual offer because of my school. And I was terrified that everyone else was super, super smart. Everyone had this huge brain that just has so much information that I would never be able to get close to. And that's not the case at all. And actually, most people will be feeling exactly the same way at the start of the course. It's so overwhelming. and there's so much going on, and even if people don't say it out loud, most people will be feeling exactly the same. So I've had a really interesting question come into my private messages asking, so it's a parent who none of their family is medical, and it's first child going to university. Will that be a barrier for their child accessing medicine? So I'm going to kick it off by saying no. And if anyone else wants to take the floor with that.
I am on a WP course. I'm on a Widening Participation course. I'm on the Extended Medical Degree Programme at King's, at King's and at various other Widening Participation courses. Being generation, the first person to be attending university kind of counts towards your Widening Participation status. So absolutely not. It's definitely not a barrier. People are aware that it might mean that as a parent, you're not so confident in the application process. But hopefully your child's career department have sent multiple people to university and are aware of UCAS and what that entails. But yeah, universities are entirely aware that this is often the case, and that it might mean that as a parent, you feel less able to support your child in an application to university, but there's tons and tons and tons of free resources available online for applying for medicine. So there is just a wealth of information out there, probably more information than you could consume. So yeah, to definitely just have a look at all of that free information.
Yeah, it's been followed by a question about should students or parents be paying for courses for their child to go on, which again is another one I'm going to kick off with a no, you don't need to do it. But again, put it out for anyone else if they want to jump in.
I personally think that you can go to a course if you think it might help you, but I think being an individual and having your own answers probably matters a lot more. What I've noticed with some of my medical student friends that have sat on panels for interviews is that a lot of the answers are really repetitive, and the interviewers will completely switch off if it's a heavily formatted answer that is clearly one that's like really, really well thought out. I would probably I personally didn't go to any of those courses. I didn't have any of that help at all. But I just worked really hard to get my predicted grades. I think that's all I did, and I relied on a lot of books to do my reading. And I think being an individual and knowing why you will offer something unique to the university is more important than coming up with a manufactured answer.
There were also
perfect. The next one.
There's also so many people.
No, go.
That are just as useful, or even more so useful, because people have made them free accessible to everybody. So definitely check out those kind of resources and kind of refer to those, but don't feel obliged that you have to go to X course. That's the only way you're going to get X score on UKCAT or get an interview.
Just to add on to that as well, I don't think it means to say that you shouldn't pay for courses. There are some really good courses out there. Some are kind of on the expensive end, so it might be a bit of a stretch trying to get the most expensive course and assuming that it would provide you with the best knowledge and opportunity. But there are a lot of free resources out there. Like I used quite a few free ones, and I probably paid for a course to help me with my UCAT studies, and that was the most I spent really. And it was only a 4-week course, so it wasn't too long, and it helped me out, I guess. So you don't need to spend ridiculous amounts of money doing courses. You can find a lot of free resources, or just small subscriptions to websites or institutions which will provide you with support. So there's a bit of a balance you should have really, and sort of think of what sort of help you need before you try and do every single course out there.
I think you might have been muted, Holly.
Yeah,
sorry. I was going to say the next question is, what are some of your tips regarding the interview stage?
Just gonna interject. Someone in the chat has said that there's quite a big echo. So if we're not talking, could we mute our mics?
Perfect. I'll kick it off with my biggest tip is go in and be yourself. Like, say hi, smile, introduce yourself. And if you have a station that you don't think went as great as it can be, try and sort of separate that and just move on to the next one, because there are plenty of stations to sort of bring it back up, and often it won't have gone as bad as you think it has gone.
I think MMI, I guess anyone who doesn't know, there's generally two styles of medical interview. There's one which is called an MMI, which stands for multiple mini interview. This is a kind of relatively new interview technique. It's been picked up by more and more universities each year. And then there's the other kind of old school traditional panel interview, where you have 2 or 3 doctors or members of faculty who will kind of sit down and just ask you questions, and they might ask you to prepare some kind of ethical scenario and response to an ethical scenario. You'd have to prepare for those two things slightly differently. So an MMI, generally a kind of task-based or kind of single question-based stations that last between 5 and 10 minutes, and you might do 8 to 10 of them in an interview. Whereas a panel interview might last between half an hour and sometimes even like 40 minutes. And for those interviews, it's much more about kind of building rapport and trying to maintain somehow a train of thought across that 40 minutes, so that you're able to kind of tie together all of those things that you wanted to say. Different people do better in different ones. So part of that might be trying to do some practice and trying to work out what's better for you.
And can I just add on to that? I'd also say work on your non-verbal communication almost just as much as you're working on what you're going to be saying, because I've interviewed a lot of students for like practice interviews, and some of them can have a really, really good answer, but if they're sitting there and they're like looking up into corners and they're not looking at you, or they're stuttering a lot, it really does take away from what they're saying. So I think just practice your answers with someone, or by like standing in front of your mirror, and just see, where are your eyes going? Are you using lots of hand gestures and moving your hands about all of the time? Are you stuttering? Are you someone that like shakes your leg quite a lot when you're nervous? And just work on all of those things, because like I said, you can have a really great answer, but if you're doing lots of those really sort of irritating things, it really does detract from that, and that could really affect your mark.
I don't know if I can.
If you have any like additional learning needs that you need taken into account when you have your interviews, please let your university know, because there is actually a lot they can do to facilitate you. Whether that be that you struggle with hearing, you can be in a much quieter separate room for your stages. If you're dyslexic or you struggle with reading, you can actually be given a longer time slot to read the card before you go into your session. And there's loads of different adjustments like that. So please do let them know. And the same goes for mental health conditions. So if you have like a diagnosis of anxiety, you can have, it's like a timeout set, I believe, where you can actually leave and have some time to sort of recollect your thoughts and then go back into the interview without being penalised for that. Pashmina,
I just wanted to say, I remember in my interview, it was a panel, and I was really put off because I think there was some sort of good cop, bad cop thing going on. I'm not sure, but there was a really mean interviewer, and I got who was, checking his phone and coughing and sneezing throughout, and it was just really distracting. But I think the only reason I got in was because I really tried to focus on building rapport with the medical student and with the interviewer. and it really worked for me. I just like stuck to my guns and just really tried to impress them as much as I could. If you do encounter people that really put you off, or if you're in an MMI situation and one station doesn't go well, I think, like someone has previously said, don't let it put you off. No one else knows what you would have said in the other station, and just go in with full confidence.
I would say one thing just for this year is, come November, December, January, when interviews might be taking place this year, be aware that they may be online. So you may have to attend a virtual MMI or a virtual panel interview this year, and just kind of be prepared for that. Maybe approach your friends and family or college or sixth form and just ask them if you can do some kind of Skype or Zoom practice. So it will be exactly the same format. It'll be marked on the same things, just it will be virtual. It will look something like this, and practice that. If you're told, that you will be told if it's going to be a virtual rather than an in-person interview, and practice in the format of whatever interview you're going to have.
Perfect. The next question we've got is, what inspired you to continue medicine? For example, did your parents do science? So with this one, I imagine we can just go round. So if someone wanted to kick it off.
Good stuff. No one else is looking. I'm doing medicine for the second time because previously I had some difficulties at my other med school and had some personal things going on, and I didn't think I would actually be back in medicine. But the thing that really inspired me to come back was I used to work in finance, so I worked in finance in between the two medical schools, and I just realized it was not for me. I'm more of a selfless person that would much rather be in a patient-facing, people-facing role. And that suited me much more than a career like finance solely. But that really inspired me to come back. And the reason I got into it in the first place and wanted to get into it is because I loved science and loved working with people. I think the typical interview answer. I didn't have parents that did science. No one in my family was a doctor. I just sort of fell into it, but I realized when I came out of it that I really, really enjoyed it and came back in. So if anyone finds themselves in a position where they get rejected or they have to come out for any reason, but you're still inspired to go back in, don't let anything put you off.
But
Going round?
yeah, Ben, do you want to jump?
Oh, yeah, okay. What inspired me to do medicine? I think it was initially it was a sort of a choice by exclusion, because at A-level I did what I was interested in, which was biology, chemistry, and maths, and a lot of the course, of course, at university to do with biology and chemistry were things like chemical engineering, biomedical sciences, but then there was medicine as well. And during A-level, I actually did quite a lot of volunteering. So I like to help out in care homes. I did sort of community projects. I liked volunteering at my sixth form. And I realized that I had quite a passion for helping people, which is, I know it sounds like quite a textbook answer, but I'm a person who feels like person lives to help people. And then if I can use my knowledge and, you know, my sort of interest in helping people get better or supporting them through their lives, then medicine is sort of the degree or career that sort of encompasses it all in one. So I think it was from A-level where I made the decision, and then I just pursued it and then just kept working, and then I managed to get in, and now I'm here and I'm enjoying it.
I guess I'm kind of somewhat similar to Benedict. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then in year 12, a lot of people said to me, like, asked me if I was considering medicine. And it wasn't necessarily something I had considered. And I thought, well, I'll give it a go. So I went and did some work experience. I managed to find some work experience in a hospital and in a GP. I did it. I spoke to a lot of doctors. I spoke to a lot of medical students. and decided it was something that I could see myself doing. And then I thought, well, okay, well, I'll apply. And then if I don't get in, I don't get in. And then maybe I'll have to reevaluate. But I applied to medical schools. I got in, and now I'm 5 years in, going into my 6th year of studying medicine, and can't imagine doing anything else. So I think if you're thinking about applying for medicine, then just do. And if you get in, see how it is for you. And it's not for everyone. But I think for many people, when they start studying medicine, they then kind of can't see themselves doing anything else.
I think mine was very, can you hear me clearly? Sorry, I had some technical difficulties. Yeah, I think I'm very similar to everyone, like parts of it. I think I couldn't see myself doing something else, anything else. I knew I was quite interested in women's health, and so that kind of narrowed down midwifery and medicine. And I also I thought about, I really like the challenging aspect of kind of the diagnosis, kind of like a detective work. And I think that's something that's really unique for medicine, that allows you to kind of have, obviously, except for a detective, but it's something that I think was really motivated me to pursue a career in medicine. The opportunity to have an impact on the community and like get involved in research, in teaching. I think medicine opens out a realm of different career opportunities after. So I think that was really kind of important when considering a career. I didn't want to now like limit myself to what I wanted to do. I wanted to have loads of options if I changed my mind in the end. But I think, yeah, definitely applying and kind of once you get in, you kind of have that feeling of this is where it's supposed to be. And I think a lot of other people kind of have that similar feeling.
I think my reasons were kind of a combination of all of them and then a few on top. I don't think there was one solid reason that made me apply to medicine, because there were lots of different reasons where I thought, oh, okay, this might actually be quite interesting. So I think with medicine and with becoming a doctor, I always found that in school I had like a really short attention span. So I didn't like sitting and listening to monotonous things. I like things to be very different and things to be changing all of the time. So I thought I need a career that's going to have some kind of variety, and I don't like sitting for long periods of time either. I like being up and I like doing things. So an office job or, you know, something quite sedentary was not going to work for me either. And I think in my family, although I don't come from a family of scientists, I don't come from a family of doctors, the NHS is very, very well respected. In my house, a family member of mine had leukemia, so from quite a young age I learned that the NHS is very, very important. And I think from that was kind of what made me start thinking about becoming a doctor, because I like science, I like talking to people, I liked variety. So it all just kind of fit together. And it was only then when I done my work experience, I was like, okay, I can see myself doing this. And that was kind of, again, all in combination that made me apply to medicine. And like the others have said, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else.
Mine ties quite closely into yours in the sense that for me, I was really quite ill, and actually it made me realize that I wanted to do better than some of the treatment I'd received. And for me, that was a really big driving force. And I think we're in such an era of change that it's incredibly inspiring to know that we are the generation of doctors which can hopefully lead to a better and more inclusive NHS in the future. I've had a question that is, if you could go back and have one thing and have your school do one thing differently to support you, what would it be?
For me, it would definitely be number of A-levels. I think I went to a sixth form college that hadn't sent anyone to medicine, and they seemed to be under the impression that the more A-level subjects someone did, the better they were. But universities only ever care about 3, particularly now, now that there's no AS kind of halves. Universities only care about 3. So if someone's telling you that by doing 4 you're going to have more of an opportunity, or by even doing 5, they're only going to look at 3. If you get 5 A's, that's the same as getting 3 A's. So do better in 3 subjects that you enjoy and you like. If you're applying for medicine, make sure at least one of them is chemistry and probably biology. But yeah, just do 3. You don't need to try and push yourself any more than that. Universities only care about 3 of them.
I would say exactly the same. So I did biology and chemistry, and I also did maths and PE. I did maths because I was like, everyone's got to do maths to do medicine, but I genuinely loved PE. And actually, on reflection, I wish that there had been someone who could have gone, you can just do 3, and actually PE is fine. Like, it's well respected. It actually had more anatomy than biology had in it. So yeah, that would be mine.
I think mine would be I think from my experience, my school kind of clumped the Oxbridge applications and medicine together because they all kind of go out early. When really an Oxbridge application is a lot different to a medical application, and there's different like admissions tests and everything. So I think separating them out and actually providing separate support, not just because the deadlines are similar or the same, is really important. And I think, but also providing support for the Oxbridge people separately and the medical medicine applicants in kind of school at lunch times or even after school would be really something that would be useful. I think I know that my school, when I was applying, did it quite later on, so they focus more on interview prep, but obviously there's a lot of things that can happen and a lot of support that can be provided in order to get an interview. So kind of having that support would be I think something that I would encourage.
I'd say kind of just echoing that, but also start the support quite early and don't assume that, you know, you should start putting the support in around interview season, because just to get to interview, you need the work experience, you need the voluntary work, you need a summer school, you need this, that, and the other. So I think start informing your students of opportunities very, very, very in advance. And I'm not talking a few months, I'm saying like from year 10 or year 11, start encouraging them to look into not necessarily what university they're going to go to, but just like what a university is, what a medical degree is, what sort of things might you need to be doing if you were considering a career in medicine or healthcare. Because even things like organising work experience, you might have to do it a year in advance because there are so want work experience. So just start the support very, very early.
One thing to just add was maybe, which can be quite useful, is maybe creating a database of work experience people have like contacted through the school. So like I know that like in year 11 you have a day off where you can go off to work experience, so maybe collecting those contacts and having like a database of these healthcare work experience opportunities that then when you come to the summer after year 11 or in year 12, these students can contact and reach out because you have that relationship. I know a lot of people rely on that kind of students who have parents in the healthcare field for those contacts. It'd be good to create a database of that in your own school. Similarly with like personal statements that your past cohort of medical applicants have kind of submitted, maybe reviewing that, having a session and maybe going through analysing personal statements and how you can draft your own personal statement to show your experiences would be useful as well. Having those sessions in school, I think, would be really something that will make the students kind of realise the importance of the aspects of the work experience, the importance of a personal statement and whatnot. So yeah, something to consider.
Yeah, also I know depending on the school there are a lot of free kind of workshops and sessions that actually not all schools are eligible for, but if you're a contextual school or a state school and are struggling to provide support, often there are courses that you that some people may pay for that you can go along to for free, or you can pair up with other schools and your pupils will get free attendance because maybe the medical school admission rate is quite low from that school. So something else to sort of have a look into and bear in mind.
Yeah, I would just say there are still a lot of colleges and a lot of sixth forms, a lot of schools who have never successfully sent someone to medical school. And that shouldn't be a barrier to successfully sending someone to medical school. So if, unlike some of these schools, the statistic is still true that 20% of the schools in the UK submit 80% of the applications to medicine. So if you are a school that has never sent someone to medicine and you've got a student who's aspiring to go and study medicine, and you are a careers department or you're a science teacher, an email to your local universities that offer medical courses. Every single medical school in the country has an outreach program, and I'm sure they would be happy to provide medical students to come and give a talk. They would be possibly just be able to organize a talk themselves from the admissions tutors. And outreach is now a huge part of medicine. There's a huge drive right now for widening participation, for increasing accessibility. And so reach out, and the help and support is there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is something that support is becoming more accessible, which is something that is very much needed because we still have a long way to go in making medicine entirely accessible. Some of the questions, I don't know how confident people feel about answering things like preparing for BMAT and UCAT. I personally wouldn't know. I don't think. Has anyone got anything they'd like to contribute to those?
Sorry, go ahead, Melissa. No, go ahead.
I done both. So the way I kind of prepared for both was relatively similar, other than BMAT obviously having an essay. But I think for UCAT, one thing I did is I split my revision into almost like two phases. So for the first kind of phase, I focused on getting the questions right, regardless of the time, because the questions themselves aren't super difficult if you've got a long period of time to answer them. But if you don't, obviously in the case of the test, it's like you're really pushed for time. So I spent a few weeks kind of doing lots and lots of questions, ones that were free online and ones that were in books. So you can get like 1500 UK CAT and things like that. Literally just spending lots of time figuring out, okay, if I'm getting the question wrong, like why am I getting it wrong? And also then like, again, looking into how do I get it right the next time? Are there any sort of tips and tricks that I can follow? So things like abstract reasoning, are there particular patterns that seem to come up quite a lot? Are there particular patterns that I should remember? And then the second phase of my revision was more focused on timing. So I actually didn't practice with the time that's given in the test, because when you're revising at home and when you're doing a practice test at home, you don't have the same kind of stress response as you do the day you're in the test center. Like, you're obviously a lot more freaked out. So what I did, I practiced with 20% less time that I'd get in the test to kind of stress myself out a little bit. So then I got used to practicing questions with significantly less time than I'd actually have on the day, which meant on the actual day, I had a little bit of extra time to stop and think about things. And I'm not sure how it works this year, but when I was doing my test, we had a whiteboard where you could write down working out and things like working on your mental maths by like practicing GCSE past papers are really, really helpful, because the quicker you are at kind of, working things out in your head and not taking the time to write them down, the less time it's going to take per question. So just think about ways of how you can speed particular things up, like reading more to become better at reading large volumes of text, or doing GCSE maths past papers to, stop you from using the calculator to type things in. Just things like that are really, really helpful.
I'm just going to add the same as with the MMIs. If you have any particular learning disabilities, please also contact UCAT. You can sit what's called the UCAT SEN, which I sat UCAT SEN, and it meant that it's either 20% or 25% extra time to allow for reading. So again, if you need that support, please ask for it, because otherwise you are putting yourself at a real disadvantage by not being open about that support. One that I think would be really interesting to pick up is, can you continue to play high tier sport alongside studying? Or I guess, to be honest, juggling any like high commitment extracurriculars?
I would say definitely.
I think I'll take that one.
Okay, go for it.
I wanted to say, so I played basketball quite competitively at sixth form, and I was really into balancing that time with my ALevels. And then I thought I could sort of do the same thing for medicine, but I realized when it got to proper learning and it got really intense, I had to sort of play it down a little bit. So the sort of intensity where you're, say, going on match days or fixtures and you're going across to different unis and things like that, you might have to sort of play around your timetables to sort of see the amount of time you have for learning the content in lectures, and then also having enough time to spend for your extracurriculars. And because of that, I play basketball not competitively now, but I play on Fridays in the evenings, or sometimes I do sessions just teaching other students, but I wouldn't go too far to other medical schools to go and play there because they're kind of far away. And because my lectures started at 9 a.m. every day, it would be kind of hard getting back and having enough sleep to start the next day. So it's sort of implementing it into your timetable, seeing where you have time to do extracurriculars and stuff like that.
I would also talk to a university, because I know that in my year at Birmingham, it's either 6 or 7 international sports players in our year who are managing to do that, but with university support. And the other thing to look into is maybe think about applying to a uni that has a really competitive medsoc. So medical society sports teams, because they tend to be a lot more flexible and they're designed to work around a medicine timetable. Whereas obviously uni sports are designed, it's all about league tables, and they're designed to work for students that potentially only have 9 contact hours a week, which is a long way off what you will have with medicine. So
at King's, at least, every Wednesday afternoon is blocked off for social exercise, social things, of which sports fall into. So there is, at least up until your kind of full clinical years, somewhere like King's, and I think in the other London universities, at least, it's the same. There is dedicated time for sports. So at King's, there are several Olympians and Winter Olympic and international sports athletes who do manage to juggle that. And I think, as Holly said, I think part of the way they do that is they substitute some of their training with like the university provided training. So they might be attending training with a university team rather than an international team, like for a day a week.
Yeah, and I mean, your university will try to support you with that if you are a high tier performer, because you look really good for them. So they often, when you go to open days, there'll be a sports stand, and it's like, sign up if you're a high performing sport and we'll be in touch with you, because they want to support and facilitate you. So yeah, is there any sort of advice that people would like to give just before we close off to applicants, parents or teachers?
I think just make, like, whenever you have the opportunity to kind of get involved in open days, just ask all your questions that you kind of have. There's no silly questions at all. Especially, I think also researching around like the applications, look into the medical school council's information. They're really thorough. They have a document that not many medical students know about, but it has like the entry requirements for every single university. So being aware of those kind of resources. and just the kind of resources that are around and circulating as well, providing those for your students and making sure to signpost them. I think that's important.
I just wanted to say, if you, for example, I was someone that took on a lot of like volunteering and work experience during my A-levels, and I tried to juggle that with my studies, and that was really good preparation for medical school. So I would just say be realistic about medical school, because if you are someone that's applying but will dedicate your entire 100% of your time to your studies just to pass, that might be quite difficult for you, because it's a whole 5-6 years of that. And I just find doing something else alongside that really helpful for my mental health as well. So if you're someone that is organized, and if you think you can handle going in, or if you're a teacher that has a student that thinks, you know, they want to apply, but taking on a lot of activities all at one go might not be, you know, healthy for them, I would just say build up a realistic picture and speak to current medical students if you can. That was something that I really, you know, had to learn during my time at medical school, was managing a lot of things at the same time. But if you're the person that can kind of do that during A-levels as well, that would give you a really good idea as to how you'll do in medical school once you actually go in.
Perfect. I think that's probably all we've got time for on this panel. If people have any final questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I can keep an eye on them for a couple of minutes. Once the session is finished, if you head over to main stage, there is the VHCC disco to end the conference. So yeah, we will see you there. Thank you, guys.